If you want to filter data stored in ACF fields using Crocoblock's dynamic filters, there's no need to rebuild anything in JetEngine or recreate fields from scratch. In this video, I'll show you how smoothly ACF works with JetSmartFilters, and I'll also point out the key limitations. Welcome to How to Use Filters with the ACF meta fields. Let's briefly go through what I already have prepared for this tutorial. First of all, I have the Advanced Custom Fields plugin, JetEngine, and JetSmartFilters installed and activated. With ACF, I created a field group containing multiple fields of different types. With JetEngine, I created a custom post type called Doctors, and this CPT is selected in the ACF location rules, defining which post type these fields belong to. For the Doctors post type, I created several doctor profiles and filled in their information using ACF fields: images, names, services they provide, their specialty, years of experience, user rating, price per consultation, whether they accept new patients, and types of appointments. Now our goal is to create filters for doctor listings so users can search by different criteria and organize results the way they want. Let's start by creating a listing. Go to JetEngine, Listings Components, and click Add New Item. In the initial pop-up, select Doctors as the source, give the listing a name, and choose the WordPress editor. By the way, I'm using Elementor here because the demo site for this tutorial is built with it. However, the key point of this tutorial, combining ACF with Crocoblock tools, is about backend functionality, not the page builder itself. Inside the listing editor, we'll use the same widgets we normally use with JetEngine fields. I'll start with a dynamic image widget. By default, it pulls the post thumbnail, but if we check other source options, we can also select an ACF field of the media type. When I add a dynamic field, its source is set to the post title by default, which works in this case as doctors' names are used as titles. Alternatively, we can switch the source to ACF, which reveals the ACF field dropdown with all fields from the doctor's field group. I'll add several more dynamic field widgets to display additional doctor information. All this data can be formatted and customized the same way as JetEngine fields. For example, by enabling Customize Field Output, I can add static text before or after dynamic values, such as years of experience or specialty. For checkbox type fields, I enable Filter Field Output and select Checkbox Field Values. Once everything is styled the way you like, save the listing. Now let's move on to creating filters with JetSmartFilters. The key thing is to understand here that filtering always happens in two steps. First, filters are created in the plugin's backend interface, and second, they are added and styled on the page using the page builder. So head to JetSmartFilters, add new. I'll create several different filter types to demonstrate how JetSmartFilters works with ACF fields. But before that, here's an important limitation to be aware of. Despite general compatibility, filters that work with date or time data will not work with ACF fields that store data in date picker or datetime picker formats. You can still use those ACF fields to display data, but filtering by them will not work. I'll start with a checkboxes list filter for filtering doctors by services they provide. For each filter, we need to set a filter name, choose a filter type, and connect it to the field where the data is stored. Other settings depend on the filter type. Here I select custom fields as the data source. For the relational operator, I'll use union, meaning that if users select multiple options, listings matching any of them will be shown. In custom field key, I insert the ACF checkbox field name. Then I enable Get Choices from Field Data and select ACF as the field source plugin. For this filter, it's important to enable isCheckbox meta field and once again insert the field name into the query variable field. I'll also add a filter label so it can be displayed on the front end. Next, I'll add a select field with very similar settings. I leave is hierarchical disabled, since we're not working with hierarchical taxonomies. Again, I connect it to the appropriate ACF field, in this case the doctor's primary specialty, by setting custom fields as the data source, choosing ACF as the field source plugin, and inserting the field name into both custom field key and query variable. For this filter, the comparison operator should be set to equals. The Checkbox meta field toggle must remain disabled here. I can also define a placeholder and filter label. Next is a radio filter connected to a field that stores information about whether a doctor accepts new patients. Radio filters include additional UX options such as adding an all option or allowing deselection. At least one of these should be usually enabled for a good user experience. Now I'll create a range filter for years of experience. To connect it to the ACF field, I simply enter the field key into the query variable field. In Get Min Max dynamically, I select Get from Post Meta by Query Meta key, so the slider automatically adjusts to real minimum and maximum values. Otherwise, users would see default values like 0 and 100 even if no doctors match those numbers. There are also additional options for numeric formatting, step size, static text, and allowing manual input. The check range filter works similarly, but here you define predefined ranges users can select. I'll connect it to the ACF field that stores consultation fields. Next is the rating filter. It has only a few settings. I'll set the maximum number of stars to 5, matching our ACF rating field. For the inequality operator, I'll use greater than or equal, so selecting 4 stars will show doctors rated 4 stars and above. For the search filter, I choose Search by Custom field. In the query variable, I can specify multiple field keys separated by commas. For example, specialty, services, and name, allowing all of them to be searched from a single input. The final filter I'll add is Visual filter for appointment types. The data is stored in an ACF checkbox field, and I want filter options to be displayed as images. So for data source, I select Manual Input. Type is set to Image and Behavior to Radio. When adding options, the key point is that the value must exactly match the ACF field option values. Here I also attach images and add labels in case I decide to use them beside the images. Since this filter behaves like a radio filter, I enable ability to deselect radio buttons. Because the source field is a checkbox field, I also enable is checkbox meta field. Finally, I insert the ACF field key into the query variable field. Now let's move to the page where everything comes together. First, insert a listing grid widget and select the listing we created earlier. Then we start adding filters. Each filter type has its own widget in Elementor, just like blocks in Block Editor and elements in Bricks. For every filter widget, there are 2 essential steps. First, select the filter in the Select Filter dropdown, and second, choose JetEngine in the This Filter For field. If you have multiple listing grids on the page, assign a CSS ID to the target grid and use the same value as the query ID for all related filters. Some filters have extra settings. For example, turning a checkbox filter into a dropdown is useful when there are many choices. I'll add the remaining filters one by one, mostly keeping default settings and enabling filter labels where they help clarify functionality. Let's save the page settings and check how everything behaves on the front end. Now I'll start testing the filters. The Services filter opens its option on click, and it lets users display doctors that match any of the selected services. At the same time, the filters work together the opposite way. If a few filters are active at once, the listing has to match all of them. On the range filter, you can see the minimum and maximum values right under the slider, so users instantly understand the overall experience range in this group. Also, all filters are set to apply immediately on action using the AJAX apply type. The Rating filter shows doctors above the selected value when you click on stars. The Search checks through doctors' names, specialty, and services, and the Visual filter works exactly like a standard radio filter, just with images instead of radio buttons. Filters can be further styled individually through widget settings, but overall JetSmartFilters work seamlessly with ACF fields with the exception of date and time fields. ACF data is easily displayed using JetEngine in listings and single pages. That's it for this tutorial. Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next one.